Hi guys, welcome to your first home learning lesson. We're going to spend the next few weeks going over some of the chapters and some of the topics that you haven't done in a little while to consolidate and ensure that you have a really good understanding of what we need in order to prepare us for next year. Okay, the first one we're going to look at is highest common factor and lowest common multiple, so that is your title. Just 6 questions to get you started. I would like you to have a go at these 6, pause the video whilst you do so, and then I will put the answers on the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to put the answers onto the screen now. If you could please self-assess. Okay, so if you manage to get all 6 of those questions correct, the first part of the video you do not need to watch. You can skip ahead until we get on to highest common factor and lowest common multiple of larger numbers, but if any of those questions that just came up there were any that you got wrong, then please do continue watching. Okay, so highest common factor is the number that is the highest number that goes into both, and lowest common multiple is the smallest number that is a multiple of both. So for highest common factor, you're looking for a number that goes into both. Lowest common multiple is where you are looking for the smallest number that is a multiple, so it's in their times tables. Just do a quick example of how to find both of those. So finding the highest common factor of 12 and 30, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a 12 and I'm going to write a 30 in my page. I'm going to go through and I'm going to work out all of the factors of 12. So 1 times 12 is 12, 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 4 is 12, and that is all of the numbers that will go into 12. I do the same thing for 30. 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. 4 doesn't go into 30, so I skip ahead, and then 5 times 6, and that's all of them. I then look through the list to find the highest one that's in both. That is 6. So 6 is the highest common factor of 12 and 30. If I was asked to find the lowest common multiple of 12 and 30, what I would do is I would list out all of the numbers in the 12 and the 30 times table until I get to the first one that is in both. So 12, I'm going to do the first 5 for now. 24, 36, 48, 60, 30, and then 60. And I can see that 60 is the smallest multiple that is in both of their lists, and that is shared. Okay, if that was something that you found quite tricky, what I would like you to do is pause the video here and have a go at these 4 questions. If they were questions that you were fine with, then please do skip past this part. Please pause the video now if you're going to have a go at these questions. Okay, they are your answers. Please self-assess in green pen. Okay, that is all well and good using that method, but what if the question asked you to find the highest common factor and lowest common multiple of 2 numbers that look like this? They are much more challenging. The reason that it is going to be more challenging is finding the factors of 294 and the multiples of 294 is going to take me a really long time, so I need to think of a different method that I could use in order to do that. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do prime factor trees to work out what these are as a product of primes. If that is something you're not sure about, I'm going to model it for you with some slightly easier numbers. Again, if this is something you are confident with and you got right in the starter, then please do skip ahead. Okay, writing 36 as a product of primes. I write my 36 nice and clear on my page. I then think about all of the numbers that multiply to give me 36. I'm going to go for 3 times 12 just because it's one that I saw earlier on. 3 times 12, 3 is a prime number, so I circle it. 12 is not a prime number, so I continue to break that down. 12 is the same as 2 times 6. 2 is a prime number, so I stop. 6 is not yet a prime number, so I carry on dividing it. 2 times 3, they are both prime, so I know I've got all of my prime numbers there. I write it out as a multiplication, product of primes. Product means multiply. So I've got 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 when I put them in number order. 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. I can tick them off as I want to if I need to. And then I'm also going to write that in index notation, which means writing it in terms of powers. 2 squared times 3 squared. There are a few questions for you to have a go at here. If you want to practice finding things as products of primes, again, please do pause the video. All of the questions are here down at the bottom and all of the solutions are there at the top. You can cross them off as you work them out. Again, if this is something you don't need to practice, you do not need to pause the video. Okay, so going back to my original question, the question asked me to find the highest common factor and the lowest common multiple of 60 and 294. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write those as a product of primes. Okay, 60. Well, I know that 60 can be divided by 2, so it's 2 times 30. That again can be divided by 2, 2 times 15, and that was prime, 15 is not yet prime, which is 3 times 5. So 60 is 2 times 2 times 3 times 5, or 2 squared times 3 times 5. Do the same thing for 294. I know that I can divide 294 by 2. 2 times 147. Okay, I also know that 147 can be divided by 3. 2 was prime. So that's 3 times 49. 3 is prime. And that is 7 times 7. They are all prime. Okay, so I'm going to write that out again. 294 is 2 times 3 times 7 times 7. Or 2 times 3 times 7 squared. Okay, what I now need to do is I need to put them into a Venn diagram and decide what things that they share in common and what things they don't. So I had 60 was 2 times 3 times by 5. And 294, that was, sorry, I'll just bring that a bit closer. 294 was 2 times 3 times 7 times 7. How I'm going to write these, I'm going to stack them underneath each other. So it was 2 times by 3 times by 7 times by 7. What I achieve by writing it like that is that I can see everything that they share in common is stacked on top of each other. So they share a 2, and then 60 has a 2 of its own. They share a 3, 60 has a 5 of its own, and then 294 has 2 7s. I would strongly suggest that you write them in this way. Putting them into a Venn diagram then, I always label my Venn diagram which number I'm writing where. 60 goes on the left, 294 goes on the right. The things that they share in common, they have a 2. I'm going to cross that off. That's going to go in the middle. They also have a 3 that they share in common. That also goes in the middle. Anything left in the 60s, a 2 and a 5, and anything left in the 294s is the 2 7s. You'll notice that I didn't write it as index notation. When we do another example in a couple of minutes, you'll see why it's better to not have it written in index notation here. The highest common factor you can find by multiplying everything in the middle of your Venn diagram. So I've got 2 times 3, which is 6. To find your lowest common multiple, you multiply everything that you have in your Venn diagram. So I'm going to work out what's on the left. 2 times 5 is 10. Oops, should be a times sign. Everything in the middle, 2 times 3 is 6. And everything on the right, 7 times 7, which is 49. So I do the left region multiplied by the middle multiplied by the edge. 10 times 6 times 49. I need to do 10 times 6, which is 60. And then I need to do 60 times 49, which is 2,940. You'll notice I did that quite quickly. I have worked out what that is already. In a non-calculator exam, you would just need to use standard multiplication to find that. Okay, I'm going to do 2 more examples. If you would like to pause the video and have a go at this one first, then please do so. If you want to carry on watching as I explain it, then I will start that in the next couple of seconds. Okay, next question asks me to find the highest common factor and lowest common multiple of 88 and 132. So again, split it into its prime factors. 88 is 2 times 44, that's prime. 2 times 22, that's prime. And that's 2 times by 11, prime and prime. 132, if I divide that by 2, 132 divided by 2 is 66. That is prime. 66 is 6 times 11. 11 is prime. 6 is 2 times 3. They're all prime. I write it out. 88 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 11. I'm going to leave a big gap there because then when I stack my other numbers in, it should fit. And 132 is going to be 2 times 2 times by 3, well, I've not got any 3's yet, and times by 11. So I can see everything they've got in common. They've got a 2, and an 11. I draw my Venn diagram. 88 goes on the left, 132 goes in the middle. Okay, so I had 2 2's that was shared, and then I had some 11's. Okay, the thing that is left in 88 is a 2, and the thing that is left in 132 is a 3. To find my highest common factor, I look at the middle of my Venn times, which is 2 times 2 times 11, which is 44, and my lowest common multiple is 2 times by the middle, which is 44, times by the thing on the right, which is 3. Okay, so I just do 2 times 44 times by 3, which is going to give me 264. Excellent. Right, I'm going to do my third and final example now of using prime factor decomposition to work out highest common factor and lowest common multiple. Slightly different format. It says given that 1050 is 2 times 3 times 5 squared times 7, and 300 is 2 squared times 3 times 5 squared, find the highest common factor and lowest common multiple. You would have heard me say earlier on that it is better to not have it in index form, so to not have the powers and write it out in full and stack them on top of each other. So that's what I'm going to do first. So I've got 1050 is 2. I can see that underneath there's a couple more too, so I'm going to leave a big gap. Times 3 times 5 squared, which is 5 times 5, and then I've got times by 7 on the right. 300 is 2 times 2 times 3, because 2 times 2 times 3, times 5 times 5. Okay, again, I can see everything that they share in common is on top of each other. Drawing out my Venn diagram, I write my labels. Everything that they share goes in the middle, so they share a 2, they share a 3, and they share 2 5's. What I've got left on this side is a 7, what I have left on this side is a 2. Again, reminder, I wrote from my index form, I wrote them out in full, and then I filled in my regions on my Venn diagram. Same thing applies here. Highest common factor is the middle, so 2 times 3 times 5 times 5. So I've got 2 times 3, which is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 times 5 is 150. Okay, to find my lowest common multiple, I need to do 7, which is on the left, times by 150, which is in the middle, times by 2 on the right, which is going to give me 2,100. Highest common factor, lowest common multiple. There's a couple more things that I need to go back and show you. You might be asked to find highest common factor and lowest common multiple in a worded question like this. If you look carefully, it says, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Buses leave every 24 minutes and to Acton, and buses to Barton leave every 20 minutes. A bus to Acton and a bus to Barton both leave the station at 9 AM. When will they next leave at the same time? Okay, very important tip, very, very important tip. Work it out in terms of minutes first, rather than doing 9 AM, 9:24, 9:48 and so on. Because time is in 60 minutes and naturally as humans we do everything to the nearest 100, that makes it a little bit more complicated. Okay, so I'm going to write out, if I wanted to do it the traditional method of finding the lowest common multiple, write out all my multiples of 24 and all my multiples of 20. Okay, so 24, 48, add on another 24, I get 72, then I get 96. I know I'm looking for something that's also a multiple of 20, so I keep adding it on. If I add on 24, I get 120. I think 120 is in the 20 times table. Let's check. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, which is, that's 120 minutes. 120 minutes is 2 hours. Okay, and I know if I go back to the question, it said that they first left the station at 9 AM together. 2 hours later would make it 11 AM. Okay, so that's just a quick reminder of how to do that if you're looking at time. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some questions on the screen. Again, please do pause the video so that you can have a go at these questions before looking at the answers. I'll put the answers on the next slide very, very shortly. Okay, so please pause the video now and get ready to have a go. Please now self-assess your answers. Okay, so I will be following up this video with a worksheet that I would like you to complete, and then on Thursday I'll be uploading a little mini quiz for you to have a go at. Stay safe, everybody.